Hey everybody, this is Andrew with Scientific Ketogenics, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make chocolate peanut butter squares. This is a recipe I came up with myself, and if you have a sweet tooth like I do, it's a perfect go-to snack, and it curbs that sweet tooth pretty quickly. So hope you guys enjoy the recipe, enjoy the food. Yeah, let's get into it. So here are all the ingredients. I have Adam's peanut butter. I'm using chunky, but you can use creamy. We have almond butter, coconut oil. I like Luann brand. Peanuts, these are optional. I like to add extra chopped nuts. Cocoa powder, Truvia sweetener, butter, and electrolyte salt. We have another video explaining what this electrolyte salt is, so go check that out. And yeah, moving on. So in this recipe, you're going to use a half a cup of peanut butter. I'm using chunky, like I said. It just comes down to preference. You can use creamy or chunky. I like more chopped peanuts in mine. That's why I add some and use chunky peanut butter. Now the next ingredient you're going to use is almond butter. You're going to want to put 1/3 cup of almond butter in. You can use strictly peanut butter, so 1/2 cup plus 1/3 cup of peanut butter if you don't have almond butter, but I just like almond butter because it adds a little bit more smoothness to the recipe. Now the next ingredient you're going to be using is coconut oil, a staple in the Mount Olympus Lifestyle. Super good for upping the fat content in any recipe. You're going to want to use 1/3 of a cup, and the best way to measure coconut oil is to just plop the entire container into the microwave. This container takes about 60 seconds to melt the entire way through, so that way now it's liquefied and you can pour it into your measuring cup without any issues. I like to use the Luann brand coconut oil because it doesn't have the coconut taste or smell. The next ingredient you're going to want to use is a 1/4 cup of butter. Pour that in, make sure it's melted. I use the same measuring cup that I did for the coconut oil because you can scrape all those precious fats out afterwards. Now this step is completely optional, but I like to add a couple more chopped nuts into the mix to make my bars a bit more crunchy. I'm using peanuts here, but you can really use whatever nut you want. I don't actually measure them. I just take a handful, put them in the chopper, slap them up, and then wait till there's good consistency afterwards. Now the last few ingredients are pretty simple, just 2 tablespoons of Truvia. That seems to give me a pretty good sweetness. Then I like to use a rounded tablespoon of cocoa powder. It seems to give me a pretty decent chocolate taste without being too overwhelming. And last but not least, a few shakes of electrolyte salt. Now all that's left to do is to mix everything together. I'm using a fork here, but you can use whatever you want really, because the cocoa powder does not seem to clump up in any way. It just mixes right in, which is really, really convenient. Now just pour out that delicious peanut butter mix into any tray you'd like. I'm using an 8x8 tray here, and afterwards I'm going to cut them up into little squares. Once you've got all the mixture poured out, just take the tray and stick it in the freezer for about an hour. What you'll be left with is essentially a brick of chocolate, and just take a knife and it should be soft enough to cut right through. I'm using a butter knife here and it wasn't tough at all. Just pop them out and stick them in a Tupperware and leave them in the freezer until you're ready to eat them. I took my batch out of the freezer a bit early, so they did break up slightly as I was taking them out of the tray, but if they break in half, no big deal. Just stick them in the Tupperware and they'll be fine in the freezer. So here's the final result from my batch. Pretty decent amount of little chocolate bars. Super full of fat, super delicious, melts in your mouth, and curbs my sweet tooth like I said. So I'm just going to take these and stick them right in the freezer until I want to eat them. So here's the final recipe for these delicious chocolate peanut butter bars. I hope you guys enjoy them, and I'll see you guys next time.